All right, ready to dive in. Today we're tackling Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
Oh, this is going to be good.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's a big one. I think a lot of people have heard of these rules, even maybe skimmed the book.
Yeah, or started it and then...
Yeah, exactly. It's dense. It's a lot.
So much to unpack.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Your Peterson decoders. We'll break it down, figure out how it applies to
your life.
your real life.
What's so fascinating about Peterson, to me, is the way he brings together all these different fields, like psychology.
Obviously, yeah.
But also philosophy and even biology. It's like he creates this whole blueprint for how to live.
Totally. A real tapestry. So let's jump right in with the first few rules. I think he lays a solid foundation for self-improvement right from the start.
Oh, yeah.
Rule number 1.
Yeah.
Stand up straight with your shoulders back.
It sounds almost too simple, right?
Right.
But Peterson links this to something super interesting, dominance hierarchies, even in animals.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he uses the example of lobsters.
Lobsters. Okay, now I have to hear this.
So lobsters have these social structures, right? Like hierarchies.
Okay, yeah.
And the dominant lobsters, they actually stand taller. And that influences their serotonin levels.
So it's not just about looking confident. It's like it actually...
impacts their behavior.
Wow. It's like fake it till you make it, but on a primal level.
Exactly. And this whole idea of taking control of how you physically present yourself.
Yeah.
That leads right into rule number 2, which is treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping.
I love that.
Yeah.
It builds on that self-worth. It's like if you were mentoring someone,
Right.
you wouldn't let them, slouch around feeling bad about themselves. You'd encourage them to stand tall. Literally an element.
Metaphorically.
Yeah.
We should give ourselves that same level of care,
Yeah.
that same investment in our own well-being. And then that takes us to rule number 3, which is make friends with people who want the best for you.
Okay, this is where it starts to get really real. Because who you surround yourself with,
Huge EE impact.
huge.
Yeah.
On your ability to, do all that other stuff. Stand up straight,
For sure. I mean, if you're always around people who are negative or bring you down.
Enable those bad habits.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it that much harder to follow those first 2 rules.
It's like trying to build a strong, confident self on, shaky ground.
You need a solid foundation.
Yeah.
And that foundation comes from, in part, the people you choose to be around.
Yeah, the people who lift you up.
Yeah, who support you, who challenge you to grow.
It's like setting the stage for, all that personal growth.
Mm.
But Peterson doesn't stop there. He then takes us into meaning and purpose.
Yeah, he does.
With rule number 4.
This one's a gem. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to someone else today.
Oh, that's so good. It's so easy to get caught up in comparison, especially now with
Social media.
social media. You're just bombarded with
Highlight reels.
highlight reels, yeah.
Constantly comparing yourself to others is like a recipe for unhappiness. It breeds envy, resentment.
Yeah, it makes you feel inadequate.
Totally. But Peterson's like, hey, shift your focus.
Inward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Track your own progress. Celebrate those small wins, those little steps forward on your own path.
Your own path, yeah. So it's about recognizing that growth is personal,
It's not a competition.
not a competition. Okay, I like that. But how does this tie into the next rule?
This one tends to be a bit controversial.
Yeah.
Don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
I know that one always, people react strongly to that one.
It sounds harsh, I know,
Yeah.
but it's often misunderstood. It's not about being like an authoritarian parent.
Okay. So not turning your kids into robots.
No. It's about setting boundaries,
Okay.
teaching kids how to behave in a way that benefits them and the people around them.
So it's about giving them the tools they need to, function in the world.
Exactly. If we let our kids get away with bad behavior just to avoid conflict or because we're afraid of being mean, we're actually doing them a disservice. They're going to face much bigger problems later on when they haven't learned those skills.
Self-control.
Yeah, self-control considering the impact of their actions on others.
It's like you're setting them up for success, but it might mean having some tough conversations.
Yeah, in the short term.
Okay, that makes more sense. Now, rule number 6. This one really makes you think.
It does.
Put your house in perfect order before you criticize the world.
It's about taking responsibility for your own life
Right.
before you go around trying to fix everyone else.
Like maybe I should clean my apartment before I,
Yeah.
Go on a Twitter rant.
Exactly. But I think this resonates because it emphasizes self-reflection.
It does.
It's a call to look inward first,
Yeah.
examine our own lives, see where we can make improvements.
Before we start pointing fingers.
Exactly. And it's not about being perfect.
Yeah. No.
It's about acknowledging we all have work to do.
Areas where we can grow.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of our own little corner of the world and striving to make it better, Starting with ourselves.
Starting with ourselves. Okay, feeling inspired. Ready for number 7?
Yes.
Okay. This one. Do what is meaningful, not what is expedient.
Ooh.
That one's deep. What does he even mean by expedient?
He's saying that a life that's solely focused on instant gratification, taking the easiest path, it's ultimately unfulfilling.
It's empty, yeah.
It's shallow. So it's not about chasing pleasure all the time.
Yeah.
It's about aligning your actions with your values, with what truly matters to you.
Okay, yeah. Even if it means taking the harder road.
Exactly. It's about resisting those temptations to cut corners, take the easy way out, and instead choosing to do what's right, even when it's difficult.
I'm starting to see how these rules all, connect. He's building this framework for living a life of, integrity, purpose. Okay. This leads us to rule number 8, which I think is one of the most powerful.
It is.
Tell the truth.
Or at least don't lie.
Or at least don't lie. So simple.
So profound.
Right. I mean, we all know lying is wrong, but he takes it a step further.
He does. He argues that lying, even little lies, it erodes our integrity. It warps our perception of reality.
It's like a house built on sand.
Exactly. Eventually, it's going to crumble.
So even those little white lies we tell ourselves
or others
can have a damaging effect.
They chip away at our self-respect. They damage our relationships.
Like you create this facade, and then you have to constantly maintain it.
Right. It takes so much energy.
Yeah.
And it ultimately leads to suffering.
Yeah. It creates this distance between who you are and who you're pretending to be.
Exactly.
So living truthfully, even when it's hard, is ultimately the better path.
It's about being authentic.
Yeah, even when it's uncomfortable. Aligning your actions with your words. Living according to your values.
And it all circles back to taking responsibility for your life.
Right. You can't be truly responsible if you're constantly deceiving yourself.
Exactly.
Wow. These rules are like a web. They're all interconnected.
They are. And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right? There's so much more to unpack here. But before we go any further, let's pause for a moment. Let all of this sink in. Because Peterson is about to challenge us to shift our perspective in some pretty major ways.
Get ready to have your assumptions challenged. It's amazing how these really basic rules end up connecting to these huge ideas about meaning and purpose.
Right, like standing up straight or telling the truth.
Exactly. It's like each rule is this little thread and, woven together, they make this whole tapestry.
Yeah, and I keep thinking about how a lot of these rules kind of push you to get outside of your comfort zone.
Oh, for sure. And that takes us to rule number 9. I think this one's a good example of that.
Okay.
Assume that the person you are listening to knows something you don't.
Ooh, that's a tough one. It kind of threw me off at first. Do I really have to assume that everybody knows something I don't?
That's what's so great about it. It forces you to be humble, to recognize that you don't have all the answers.
Yeah. Okay.
And that there's always something you can learn, even from people you might not agree with.
So it's not about agreeing with them. It's more about being open to what they have to say.
Yes. Instead of going into a conversation trying to, win or prove your point.
Shut them down.
Yeah. You should try to actually understand their perspective, see things from their side.
Have some curiosity, yeah.
Exactly. Like a beginner's mind, recognizing that everyone has their own unique experiences.
And insights.
Yeah. And those can actually make your understanding of the world, richer.
I like that. It's a good reminder that you can learn something from anyone, even if it's just a different way of looking at things.
Totally.
Right.
Think about how much better our conversations would be if we all went into them like that.
Right. Okay, I'm adding this to my list of rules to practice. So, rule number 10, be precise in your speech. This one seems kind of different, a little more practical.
It does seem like a shift, but Peterson sees it as, crucial for reaching your goals, for navigating the world,
I guess if you can't explain what you want, how are you going to get it?
Exactly. It's like if you were building a house, but you couldn't tell the architect or the builders what you wanted.
Right.
What kind of house would you end up with?
Probably not a very good one.
Probably a mess.
Yeah.
And it applies to how you talk to yourself too, Like if your thoughts are all jumbled.
If you're being negative to yourself all the time.
Yeah, all that negative self-talk.
Yeah.
It's gonna sabotage you.
Yeah, makes sense. So being precise in your speech, like to yourself and to other people, it helps you figure out what you want and then go after it.
Yeah, with more intention.
Okay. Now, for a rule that always makes me laugh a little.
Oh, this way.
Yeah. Don't bother children when they're skateboarding.
It seems random, I know.
It does.
But it's really about letting kids take risks. Peterson thinks it's super important for how they develop.
So, like, letting kids be kids. Letting them explore and test their limits.
Exactly. It helps them build confidence,
Yeah.
and resilience. They learn to deal with failure and become more independent.
I see how that connects to the whole personal responsibility thing.
Right. You're basically empowering them to learn and grow on their own.
By letting them take some risks. Of course, you want to keep them safe, but you can't protect them from everything.
No. Life has risks. That's part of it. And learning how to deal with them is part of growing up.
It's a tough balance, right? Wanting to protect them, but also give them the freedom to, learn from their mistakes.
It is. And it's something we need as adults, too. Being willing to get out of our comfort zones and embrace challenges. Even take some risks sometimes if we want to grow.
That's a good point. Okay, now for the final rule. This one always makes me smile.
I love this one.
Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street.
The best one.
You're right. It is. It's like such a simple thing.
Yeah.
But there's something so sweet about it.
It's Peterson's way of reminding us to appreciate the little things, to be grateful for the good stuff, even when things are tough.
It's like a little moment of peace. Taking a break to connect with something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, just a moment of pure joy.
Pure joy. And sometimes that comes from something as simple as, like, petting a cat.
Exactly. It's about remembering that life isn't all about, achieving and striving.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes it's about those little moments of delight.
That remind you to slow down and be present.
So well said. And there you have it. We made it through all 12 of Jordan Peterson's rules.
We did.
But, we've really just scratched the surface.
I know, right? There's so much to think about.
It's amazing how these simple rules connect to such big ideas about how to live your life.
Totally. It's a lot to process.
So let's take a moment to just absorb all of this. We'll be back in a minute to wrap up our deep dive into the 12 rules for life.
Okay, back again. We covered a lot today. Lobsters, skateboarding kids, even petting cats.
So much. As we wrap this up, what sticks with me is how connected all the rules are.
Yeah, like how they build on each other.
Yeah, like this whole framework for, how to have a better life. More meaningful.
And that focus on personal responsibility, it's everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
From standing up straight to telling the truth to getting your own act together first.
Yeah.
Peterson's constantly reminding us we have a choice in how we handle things.
We do. And that, feeling like you can actually make changes, that's powerful.
Totally. It's not about blaming other people or waiting for things to magically get better.
Right. It's about owning your life and actually working towards the future you want.
I like that. It's stop whining, stop with the excuses, and just do something.
Yeah. And, it's not about being perfect.
No way.
Peterson gets that life is messy. We all screw up. It's about trying to be better,
Learning from your mistakes.
Yeah, and keep moving forward.
So where do you even start? We threw a lot of rules out there.
Right. It can be overwhelming.
People might be thinking, okay, but what do I actually do?
I think the answer is simple. Start small. Pick one rule that really grabs you. Like one that fits your life right now. And then, just try it out today.
I love that. Don't try to change everything at once.
No, little steps.
Little steps, but consistently. They can add up to big changes over time.
Exactly. So maybe today you pay more attention to your posture.
Stand a little taller.
Yeah. Shoulders back. See how that makes you feel.
Or maybe you challenge yourself to be more honest.
Yeah. Like in a conversation where you might normally hold back, just say how you really feel.
Ooh, that's a good one. Or maybe you try really listening to someone you disagree with.
Oh, that's a challenge.
It is. But ask questions. Actually try to see their point of view. Maybe you'll learn something.
Those little changes, they can be powerful. That's like planting seeds.
And with a little time, they grow into something amazing.
Maybe those little changes will inspire someone else. And they do the same thing. It's like a ripple effect.
It's a nice thought. By working on yourself, you're actually helping to make the world a better place.
It is. I think that's what Peterson's trying to do with his work.
Right.
Help people have lives that are meaningful and, make them feel fulfilled.
Responsible.
Yeah, responsible. And if everyone does that, well, The world's got to be a little bit better,
I think a
right?
little more compassionate.
For sure. So, as we wrap up, we just want to encourage you to keep thinking about these ideas, keep asking questions,
Keep challenging yourself.
and don't forget to pet a cat when you see one.
The most important rule.
Yeah.
Okay, until next time, keep searching for that life that's both meaningful and full of joy.